So our ultimate goal, of course, since it is driven by economics and economic development, is to attract companies to move to Utah and particularly to the rural counties of Tulinda and Box Elder.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 190. Can the drone industry be a source of new jobs for rural America? Today's guest believes it can. Dr. Tulinda Larsen is Executive Director of Deseret UAS, a Utah nonprofit created to promote economic development through research and testing of unmanned aerial systems. Tulinda has more than 40 years' experience as an aviation economist. She's an adjunct professor in the School of Business at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Her books, The Drone Hobbyist and Trustworthy Drone Business, are top sellers on Amazon. Tulinda is also a Part 107 remote pilot and a private pilot. In 2016, she turned her research from the commercial aviation industry to the developing drone industry. In this episode of the Drone Radio Show, Tulinda talks about efforts to bring new UAS jobs to rural Utah and discusses the opportunities and challenges of stimulating economic development through the drone industry. But before we hear from Tulinda, I want to thank those of you who are supporting my funding campaign. Now you have the option of making a one-time donation in any amount by going to droneradioshow.com/donate. Whether it's $1, $100, or much more, you can help defray the costs of production and keep the podcast going and growing. And if you want to make a monthly contribution, you can still go to patreon.com/droneradioshow. So let's learn how one organization is working to bring UAS jobs to rural America with Tulinda Larsen of Deseret UAS. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Tulinda to introduce herself.
I'm Dr. Tulinda Larsen, Executive Director of Deseret UAS. I assumed this position in the beginning of September. My background has been 40 years in manned aviation. My degrees are in economics and management, and I have focused on the drone industry since September of 2016. And I have my 107 pilot license. I'm also a private pilot, and I'm an adjunct professor at Embry-Riddle University teaching global economics. So that's kind of who I am. I've moved out here to Utah to head up Deseret UAS, which is a really exciting opportunity, first of its kind in the United States, where we're just taking all of the resources that we have here in Utah and using them to elevate Utah's presence in the unmanned aerial system and urban air mobility industry.
Why was Deseret formed?
Well, Utah has been leading in the industry of innovation and certainly in aerospace. And as this new market has been emerging, Utah has been at the forefront of looking at developing test sites. As a matter of fact, the Box Elder Northrop Grumman test site that's part of the Deseret UAS group was started 4 years ago, which is truly visionary. So the reason is to focus the efforts of the state on, as I said, elevating the UAS industry within the state, helping to promote the Utah UAS companies. And also the reason it was created through a state grant was to facilitate economic development in the rural areas of Tulinda County and Box Elder through the encouragement of unmanned aerial systems technologies to come and set up shop to start doing their testing, their research, their manufacturing, hopefully, and ultimately to bring jobs to the rural areas of Utah.
Was this a local economic development initiative, or did the state lead the effort?
Kind of both. There's been a lot of activities throughout the state of Utah that have moved different opportunities around to different counties. So the Tulinda County was very proactive in understanding about 3 years ago the opportunity that unmanned aerial systems brings to economic development. And so the state was looking at ways to promote the overall activity and the research and the other kinds of opportunities that are present here, like our Silicon Slopes for the development of the high technology, the composites research and the composites manufacturing of the Ogden County. And they wanted to try and move that all forward. So it was a combination of the state wanting to move forward the UAS initiatives and Tooele County being there saying, well, let's do it here in our rural county where we could use some help with economic development.
Where did the funding come from to get Deseret started?
The legislature last session funded a grant of $1.2 million to Tooele County for the creation of Deseret UAS, which is a nonprofit with, again, as I said, the mission of facilitating economic development through the promotion and taking advantage of all the opportunities in the drone market that can be presented and can be developed.
Can you tell us about the key partners that got the organization started?
Well, we start with really the counties of Box Elder, which is to the north of Salt Lake City, and Tooele County, which is directly west of Salt Lake City, both rural counties. And from there, we have created a group of partners, including Metron Aviation, which is an Airbus partner, Airbus company. And we have brought in Ogden City. We're looking to bring in many more of the opportunities that Utah has. We found in our research in establishing Deseret UAS, there already are 24 companies in the state that are somehow connected with unmanned aerial systems. So we have very fertile ground here of an established community that now we're looking to enhance and attract others to come into the state for research, testing, and manufacturing and development, and then also to help grow our own companies right here in Utah.
How would you characterize the current members of the organization?
We don't call them members. They are partners or collaborators, and it's a full range. It's a true public-private partnership. We have on the public side, obviously, the state legislature through the grant that is administered through the Governor's Economic Development Office. And then we are working very closely in collaboration with Utah's DOT as we move forward with initiatives to create an environment that's very encouraging for the operation of urban air mobility vehicles within the Utah network. So that's kind of how we hold things together to create Deseret UAS.
Can you tell us about some of the key partners in the effort and their role?
The public-private partnership. The public is the counties, the governor's office, and UDOT. And then on our private partners, we have both academic partners with Utah State University and the University of Utah and George Mason University. They are working together separately and together on some research projects. And then on our private partnerships, I mentioned the first one with Metron Aviation. We also have Onra Technologies, which is a USS provider. We have Nexa Capital Partners, where Nexa is helping to provide project finance for the organizations that want to come in and develop their UAS projects and testing. And we have the Fordham Technologies, which is a company that produces low-altitude radar for detection of UAS. And they also have the famous drone hunter that they demonstrated at our grand opening, where they can set up an area, and when a rogue drone comes into that area, the drone hunter goes down and hunts it down and sets out a net and catches it. And that's Fordham Technology. So that's just some of our partners or our collaborators in bringing Deseret UAS forward.
Is technology a leading industry in the state of Utah?
Utah certainly has led in innovation and technology through our growth of the Silicon Slopes, where we have deep research, highly technical companies that definitely compete very effectively against Silicon Valley in the innovation corridor there. But we also have the very deep roots in the Ogden City area of composites and the necessary materials for aerospace. So we have technology, we have manufacturing, we have research through the universities. Brigham Young University has the famous resources and deep research into detect and avoid and other, in their magic lab, the other kinds of facilitating technologies that are going to be so required for us to move this industry forward. And we're working with the University of Utah on a number of weather research because there's very great need in the industry to have much more accurate low altitude weather forecasting for really as we move into urban air mobility. We're going to need much more precise understanding of winds in the lower altitudes and particularly in an urban environment. So I would say, yeah, technology is a lead innovation. And then we also have the actual manufacturing and the research element through our university network to support all of the necessary components to move Utah forward in the UAS industry.
What facilities or assets does Deseret have that it can use to promote economic development?
In Tulinda County, Deseret UAS has their headquarters. We call it our Experience Center. And that's where people can come in and learn about opportunities in Utah in the unmanned aerial system industry. It's also a place for mission planning and understanding what are the steps necessary to bring a product to market. So the first test site that we have that's fully functional, and I'm hell-bent on getting a flight test out there, UAS flight test out on our range, is in Box Elder County. Again, as I said, it's north of Salt Lake City. 4 years ago, the state and the county came together, what was then ATK Orbital, to develop an airstrip that's part of their property. Since then, Northrop Grumman has bought ATK Orbital. So this particular area within their property is a really 4,500-foot airstrip, which has been repaved by 1,400 feet of completely brand new pavement. There's a nice unit that has been set up that is a perfect location for a flight monitoring center. It's heated, it has plumbing, it has a little kitchen area, it has an area for briefing the teams, and it has workspace and high-speed internet. So it's a perfect location for setting up your flight monitoring. And then we're in the process of building a 60 by 60 foot hangar so that we can shelter the vehicles during the flight testing time, because usually it takes 2 to 3 weeks to do the flight testing. So that's our premier facility right now, is this Northrop Grumman site. It's in G airspace and it's wide open and it's also secure. It has 24-hour security. There's also fire department, EMTs, if any bad things did happen. So that is up and operational. And we have now 6 companies that are knocking on our door to come test, starting at the Northrop Grumman facility. The second facility that we're developing is in Ogden City. Ogden City has been proactive in stepping out and saying that they want to be a real urban test site for unmanned aerial vehicles and UAM vehicles, and as opposed to other environments that have cargo containers and simulated cities. Right now, we have put a nice packet together with the Ogden City Mayor's Office and City Council, and we will be doing a proof of concept in the spring with our major partner who handles all our operations is Utah State University's Aggie Air. So we're going to do a proof of concept. We're figuring that out. Actually, I have a 4:00 call today to start planning exactly when and what we're going to do. That's really exciting. Then out in Tooele, we have some wide open spaces, and there are a number of opportunities that we can be able to create some pretty exciting areas that can be used for flight testing for many miles of wide open, unobstructed. There's some military installations out in Tulinda County that we are in discussions with, where we would be able to use some unused buildings there we could renovate. And we're talking about putting a wind tunnel in there, making it a real research center. And this particular area is like 26 square miles. So it's a big area. 19,000 acres of wide open land. And in addition to those, we're looking at other kinds of lands like BLM land. So our goal for our flight testing is to be able to develop multiple flight test areas in Utah to meet the different mission requirements depending on the needs of companies that want to do some flight testing.
What are some of the key milestones that you're striving to achieve?
While we were set to launch in July 1, the actual funding didn't come through until September, and our grand opening was on October 24th. What an exciting day that was. We had 260 people there. We had the lieutenant governor doing a keynote speak, and Congressman Stewart and our state senator Buxton, who were all setting the path for where the vision is for Utah to go forward. Starting in 2019, our first goal is to start getting flight testing out in Box Elder and to build out these other sites. So our 4 pillars of what Deseret's mission is, the first is to become a central source for information on unmanned aerial systems for Utah and for anyone interested in Utah and UAS. Second is to elevate, as I said before, Utah in the UAS industry. And we're doing that by promoting right now we have 24 companies that are in some way affiliated with unmanned aerial systems. We're exhibiting at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. We're doing a big exhibit at the AUVSI Exponential. And we have a directory on our website that lists these companies so they can find each other, so that people from the outside can find our Utah companies. Our third pillar, or third part of our mission, is to promote research, foundational research, to move the UAS and UAM industry forward. And as I previously mentioned, we're working with Utah State University to handle our operations, and on some other fundamental research. Second, with University of Utah, we're working on a weather research project to get to a point where we have better predictive algorithms for low altitude weather. And with George Mason University, we are in the middle of a study developing a small package delivery system for Tooele County. And then our fourth and final is that I've been talking a lot about are our test sites. And so our ultimate goal, of course, since it is driven by economics and economic development, is to attract companies to move to Utah, and particularly to the rural counties of Tooele and Box Elder. Once the vehicle has been tested and certified, that they would ultimately move their production and manufacturing, which then, of course, results in jobs, which is what economic development is all about. So those are our goals and milestones over the next 2 to 3 years.
What differentiates Deseret UAS from other organizations?
I think the key service that Deseret UAS can provide to the drone industry is a place for commercial UAS and UAM companies to come test their products and services. The current FAA test sites are not designed for commercial operations. They're really focused on doing what is needed by NASA and FAA, while they, of course, would love to have some commercial customers. The facts are that's not what they're set up. We are setting our group of flight test ranges to be targeting the commercial manufacturers and developers of innovative concepts for both UAS and UAM. And how we are able to do that is having the facilities that I've described, but also through our relationship with Utah State and Aggie Air, we're able to tuck them under their research programs and be able to fly these pretty unproven aircraft with the COAs that Aggie Air has and Aggie Air's ability to self-certify. That's our secret sauce, is that we are setting it up for the commercial companies to have a place that they can prove their concepts, they can test safely and economically.
For a new organization, what are some of the challenges in getting the message out or developing the momentum that you need to create sustained economic development?
Well, we haven't had much difficulty getting attention. We certainly have been able to get up on everybody's radar screen, so to speak. And the phone literally is ringing off the hook with companies that want to come in and try something. They say, I just want to see if it flies. And we're providing that resource to the industry. So that has not been the challenge. The challenge will be, how do I monetize this? My cost base is really minimal at this point because the 3 test sites we're working with are very eager. Their end game is get the company to locate in their area. Their end game is not to make a gazillion dollars on flight testing, but somehow I have to figure out how to monetize Deseret UAS beyond just the grants. And it's really my biggest challenge right now.
That seems to be the big challenge for just about everyone in the industry. How to take a great idea and make money at it.
Exactly, that you can make a profit at. Since we're a nonprofit, we don't have to make a profit, but at least to be able to cover our expenses. And I think once we are proven to be a job generator, which I have a high confidence level we will be, that the whole concept of being able to support the organization. I want to keep Deseret UAS lean and mean, just a small organization. Deseret UAS will never have 1,000 jobs. We have to be the facilitator to both grow our indigenous UAS companies in Utah and then attract new ones to come in here because of our culture.
So tell us about Electrifly and how it fits into the Deseret UAS portfolio.
Electrifly is a Utah-based company. And so we actually met each other for the first time at Interdrone in Las Vegas in September. At Interdrone, Electrify, it was their first time making their big announcement of their company and their product. And we were also looking to make big announcements. And it's been a wonderful relationship, very symbiotic, because they help us to get through the thought process of using the test site. And I'm very encouraged that they will be the first vehicle tested on the Box Elder Northrop Grumman test site. But they're more than that. I mean, they just exemplify the Utah culture of innovation, creativity, resourcefulness. We're also working with them on exhibiting at Consumer Electronics Show. We're jointly putting that together so they will have their amazing vehicle there. So we naturally found that once they are able to fly their vehicle, their personal hovercraft or personal flight aircraft, then the natural place to do it is in Utah through Deseret UAS.
Did I hear you correctly that neither of you had heard of each other before Interdrone?
That's correct. Literally, Marshall Wright, who is our Director of Government and Industry Affairs, and I turned around the corner, and of course, the Electrifly aircraft is so stunning and so innovative. You just stop and look at it. And of course, we introduced ourselves, and we're Deseret UAS from Utah. And they said, oh, we're from Utah too. That's exactly how we met. And since then, we've been doing so many things together. Just a wonderful relationship.
Did you model Deseret UAS on another economic development organization?
No, we didn't. We looked at the FAA test sites, and they're not us. And we believe, and I would like to be challenged on this, but from what I know, Utah is the only state that has really designated an entity like Deseret UAS to rise the tide for everyone in the state, not just a test site or just a particular company. So I really feel that that's the big difference for us.
What sort of feedback or support are you getting from local stakeholders?
The local level of Tooele County and Box Elder County have been very welcoming and very supportive. It's an interesting concept when you take it down to the consumer level. You know, the idea that we've created this organization to promote unmanned aerial systems technology, it is one that we've worked really hard with the communities to help them understand the benefits. And they have been embracing them, both Box Elder, Tooele, and then, of course, Ogden. They want to see this new technology move forward and be part of their communities. I
see that you're a Part 107 certificate holder. Does that mean you have a commercial drone business?
As I said, I was 40 years in commercial manned aviation, and I started a small software company that we sold in 2015, and I was finally released from my commitment to them in September 2016. And I had so many non-competes, I looked for something totally different to do. So coincidentally, September 1, which is, of course, just days after 107 went into place, I started to turn my attention toward drones. And the first thing I did is go into drone, interestingly. And I spent the fall of 2016, I went to 9 drone conferences to educate myself on drones. But I still come back to I couldn't figure out how to monetize it. So in the spring, this is a little different story. I'm a sailor, and I was part of the Annapolis Yacht Club race committee. And when they found out that I was a drone pilot, they said, well, let's start using drones for sailboat racing. So I started every race there was using my drone to develop policies and procedures for using drones in sailboat racing. But the fact that I needed the 107 to do that kind of pulled me along. And then it gave me the hours of flying that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So it's sailing that actually got me into the drone business. And what got me into Deseret UAS is I had been part of the original group, the founders, the visionaries of Daryl Jenkins and Sean Milne and Marshall Wright, as they were 3 years previous looking to develop this concept. At that time, it wasn't called Deseret UAS. It was called UAS for Utah. And I was on kind of the periphery, but then as the funding came through and the need for a strong executive director became evident, they recruited me to come in to run the organization. So that's how I ended up out here in Utah, even though I started on the Chesapeake Bay flying my drone for sailboat races.
The work that you did in connection with sailing, was that primarily filming the races?
Well, there's two things. One is entertainment. That's what you're talking about. But the second is to more precisely score the race. Because a sailboat race, there's 3 things that you're worried about. Did somebody start sooner than the gun? Did they start too early? And you really, on the race committee boat, you really can only see the boats that are close to you. You don't see the full line. But with a drone, you can. And the second thing you worry about is when you send them out to turn around the different marks, did they hit the mark or did they hit each other? And again, you can't see that from the committee boat. And then the final is, what's the order of finish when the race is over? And again, when you're sitting on the committee boat, you can't see the entire line, but with a drone you can. And then you can see any other infractions that are going on. So it's use of race management, drones for use of race management. And I actually did a keynote speech at U.S. Sailing in January of this year on drones and sailboat race management.
To your knowledge, are those best practices being used?
Oh, yeah. It's used a lot. Yes. Yeah. And it's used in coaching because it's wonderful. You can take the drone out and you can see, given an aerial bird's eye view, as we keep saying, of the race for the contestants. And then it's also for coaching. They use it in the America's Cup extensively for training. So yes, drones are very much part of the yachting community now, and certainly in the racing. The big one is the Volvo Cup around the world. They use drones extensively for sending the drone out ahead to see the weather conditions, to see the set of their sails, etc. Yeah, I've been saying to AUVSI that they really should add another group of categories of drone operations called sports management, because they have agriculture and survey and inspection and search and rescue, fire department. But there's no category in AUVSI's groupings that would say sports management, and it is growing. It's not just sailing; it's bike racing and foot races, and drones have really revolutionized sports management.
Why should a company consider using Deseret UAS?
Companies that want to test commercial products and services should come to Deseret UAS because we are commercial focused. We're not academic focused. We're not government research focused. We're very much focused on the needs of commercial manufacturers and companies in that space. And we allow them some very unique opportunities to get their product tested in the most efficient and safest way possible at a very cost-effective, at this point, as I said, struggling with monetizing, and our cost structure is such that we can really work with these most of them are startups, brand new companies that are trying to bring their technology. And the first thing they have to do is prove that it works. And we're here to help them do that.
And for my final question, Tulinda, what message would you like to leave in regard to Deseret UAS and its place in the drone industry?
Deseret UAS wants to be the number one place that companies looking to bring commercial products and services in the unmanned aerial system world to market, that they come and take a look and work with us to get the underlying research done, to be able to help them get their products tested. So that's the number one thing, is that I would like to reach out to all commercial companies in this space that to give us a call at Deseret UAS and let us help you achieve your dreams and your goals and objectives.
That's it for episode 190 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Dr. Tulinda Larsen of Deseret UAS. I want to thank Tulinda for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Deseret UAS or want to connect with Tulinda, check out the webpage at deseretuas.org. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1, you can help defray the costs of production. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate or patreon.com/droneradioshow. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me. I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Gores.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.